Welcome to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by Alan and special guest Julian once again for a special bonus episode. How you going, boys?
Very good,
Good,
thank
happy
you.
to be here.
Yep.
Very good. We're talking about Baby Reindeer this week, the new Netflix show by Richard Gadd that has taken the world by storm. Much like our last bonus episode, we should open with a bit of a content warning. The kind of topics discussed in the show, as well as the kind of conversation around the show, deal with sexual abuse, drugs, mental health, stalking, all kinds of nasty topics. Please seek help if you need help, and just be aware that we'll be discussing these kinds of issues in this episode.
Yeah, and if you or someone you know is being harassed, stalked, or abused, there is help out there. You can either contact, your local police or just search online for help services.
Before we get to, I guess, the story and the narratives behind Baby Reindeer, I'd say it does have quite a lot in common with our special from last week as well. A little bit, as a treat. It has some kind of connections to, again, people being abused by others in power in an entertainment industry. So I just thought it's interesting that we kind of happen to stumble on these bonus episodes we wanted to talk about, and they have kind of some of these related themes. Obviously, this isn't part of the stalking side of that story. It's the other side of the story about Donnie Dunn's pursuit of fame
Yeah.
and how he gets, I guess, taken in by a veteran in the entertainment industry. Also, spoilers, I guess, for Baby Reindeer.
Yeah, look,
I think.
if you haven't watched
Alan,
it, it's probably worth a watch again with the understanding that this is a heavy show. It's a dramatized reenactment of real events. So there is obviously, I think some events are probably spiced up a little bit more than what originally would have happened in real life. But for the most part, what happened in the show is based on what actually happened in real life. So just to kind of understanding that before you go in, making sure. But if you're gonna, I guess, have a listen to us, it's probably worth having watched the actual show.
I think what surprised me about the show was that there's so many more layers than what I was expecting. So I was expecting going in, watching it, and seeing some lady stalking a guy, but man, it was way deeper than that, isn't it? And just how guilty he felt, and his reactions and going back to her, even though he knew he was being stalked by her, just crazy.
That
A lot deeper than what I was expecting.
that also strikes it more as true for me. Like the fact that he felt guilt himself for being a part of that situation. He feels guilt over the situation too. It's not as black and white. Um, sure, he could have ended it quite quickly. I guess, but he felt sorry for her initially, and but it's like people aren't black and white. Like he felt guilty as well. It's kind of like a vicious circle, and he felt trapped. And it's just, yeah, there's so much going on here beyond the kind of the Martha situation, if you want to call it that. Like his
Yeah.
own mental health struggles, his own, issues with drug abuse, sexual abuse, like all of that kind of stuff. Everything's compounded into like the perfect storm for our character Donnie, or in real life Richard.
Yeah.
Like like he kind of his own self-destructive tendencies just innately made it so much worse.
Yeah, it's again always being, I guess, cautious and not being. We're not trying to blame any victims in any scenario, because in the grand scheme of things, no matter what happens, it's the person who is the perpetrator is at fault, right?
Oh, 100%.
That's the ultimate truth of the situation. But in some of these cases, and I think especially in Richard Gadd's case, in what he shows in the television program, is he also somewhat enabled it. Like his actions, or inactions in some cases, led to
Yeah.
it getting as far as it did. Whereas, if he had taken the appropriate action early on, it definitely wouldn't have gotten as far
And
as it did.
he
Well,
reflects on that as well in the show. Like as he narrates it, he's like, if I didn't follow her home, if I didn't do this, if I didn't do that, it might have all been different.
I think the I suppose another layer to it is that yeah, sure, okay, maybe he could have come to the conclusion to go into the police earlier on. But when he finally did go to the police, like, it still wasn't as simple as, hey, this is what's happening, help me out here. It's well, can you prove it? And can you do this? There was
Yeah.
no, and I think that, obviously, no world's perfect and no system is perfect. However, sometimes it is quite difficult to, I suppose, do the right thing or follow the right procedures because it does make it very hard.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think he also like a lot of these kinds of issues where he also kind of sought out the affection is the wrong word. Um,
Mm,
he sought out the attentions of Martha, right?
mm,
And it's kind of wrapped up in his whole backstory, which you're not really aware of until what is it, like episode 5, when he goes into the abuse that he has suffered and all of those kinds of issues.
yeah.
Um, but it's like he said he needed the ego boost. He needed that kind of someone to say that he's amazing and believe in him, rightly or wrongly. He's like he was also, in a way, he had no self-esteem, and he had no. So for him, it was also like someone championing him. Obviously, in hindsight, it's easy to see that Martha was very like is doing the wrong thing, obviously.
Mm,
But he also said that he needed that for his own self-esteem, his own. He used her for his own selfish reasons too, to keep his ego high and his ego in check. So I'm like, they were kind of using each other in a sort of way as well. Like it's
mm,
not
Yeah.
the show's
yep.
also kind of careful to be like, no, there's not one victim here. They're
Yeah.
both to blame for
Mm.
some of it. Obviously,
So,
Martha's like 80% of the equation, but he did enable it, and he doesn't shy away from that in interviews afterwards and everything else. He's like, yeah, obviously in hindsight you could always do better.
yeah. Like,
Um,
I think when Martha goes to his first comedy gig, or the first comedy gig she shows up to, she helps him out in the show effectively. Like, you see in the kind of response he normally gets versus with Martha's addition. He actually got a much bigger rise out of the
yeah,
crowd, and it
yeah,
like that for him again is probably one of those moments which positively kind of reinforce the idea that, okay, Martha's not so bad to have around. Like,
Yeah.
she may be a bit
yeah.
strange and everything else, and
Oh, I did have a giggle though in one of those comedy sets where he's like, "Oh, can't take me mum anywhere." I was
yeah,
like, yeah, but yeah, it has a lot of. It is very funny, even though it is very heavy.
Mm,
But I did appreciate some of the filmmaking they use in this show. The camera angles are designed to, I guess, provoke unease and tension. Like it's kind of a lot of the angles of the faces are sort of framed from underneath the face, giving you like a claustrophobic angle where you can't see your surroundings. It's designed to, I guess, give the audience tension and make them uncomfortable because you can't see people's hands, you can't see their surroundings. It's all kind of you're not sure what's going to happen.
mm.
So it kind of a lot of the tension is definitely driven by that claustrophobic filmmaking, which I did appreciate. But yeah, I would say, Alan, I'm very surprised you managed to get through it.
yeah.
It's very cringe-worthy. The
Oh
Alan
no,
and Julian are not the boys for the Alan and Julian, for our listeners, are not boys that enjoy cringe.
look,
So I don't
Oh, no,
mind cringe. I
okay,
enjoy
a
it,
certain
but
type of
sometimes it
cringe.
can be a bit much. Yeah.
Yeah, no, actually, I'll take
Alum's
that back for
definitely worse than
Julian.
me.
I'll
Alum's
take that
definitely
back
worse
for
than me.
Julian. Julian, did you ever watch the rehearsal
Uh, yes, I
with
did
Nathan
say. Yeah,
Fielder?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Nathan
yeah.
Field, of course I
All
did.
right,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I take that back. Alan, Julian enjoys some cringe. Alan definitely does not.
no, I enjoy it, but like, just like a lot of comedy has to ride the line between being funny and being inappropriate. Like, cringe also has to ride that line between being uncomfortable and funny. And
Well,
unfortunately for a lot of Richard's, or he's Donnie in the show, his comedy, first of all, it's prop comedy, which I'm not huge on anyway. Like, give me some stand up, give me some skits. I'm your man, But the prop comedy is already like something that's you're already on the back foot here, and then some of his scenes, I was just like, man, I wish I could just crawl into a hole and die,
Yeah,
like out of like secondhand embarrassment. It
yeah,
takes it takes a certain kind of person to put themselves out there in the comedy scene where you're already, the goal is to have people laugh at you in the first place, but you want them to laugh at what you're saying, rather than laugh at you for being a failure.
Yeah. Look,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
when cringe comedy is done well, man, it's some good
Oh,
stuff.
no.
And I think Nathan Fielder is like perfect at that.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
He is like, it's my life goal to meet that man and be like, I need to see that you're a normal human being, because
He won't give that to you.
No, see, I don't think he would, and I think it's great that he wouldn't.
it's
Yeah.
we've discussed it a few times, I think, possibly on the show too, where I'm like, there's no way somebody that there are unfortunately people in the world that lack a huge amount of self-awareness, and they behave like that naturally. It is what it is. But to be this, I guess, successful in comedy, and to have that persona of like, this is who I am, I'm like, there's no way. There is no way.
I think the telling part about Nathan Fielder is the fact that he does an astounding amount of comedy writing for other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And
Agree.
I think it's like, I think behind the scenes he's probably just a normal guy, but anytime he's in public, he's Nathan Fielder, the character.
I think he's too smart to be
Yeah.
this awkward.
Yeah.
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 And very aware of it. He's very good. Look, if you guys ever want to review some of his stuff, please let me know, because I'm
Oh, we
on
can
board.
do a Nathan Fielder
100%.
special.
100%
Yeah,
on
we're
board.
more than happy to do a special on him.
I'll sit down and
I'm
watch his
just
stuff
saying,
over and over again.
The final episode of Nathan For You almost changed my life. The Finding Francis episode, oh my god.
Look, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't like it was good. It's his stuff, right? But it definitely doesn't stand out to me.
Oh man, no, the moment when he gets the prostitute and he's just like, tell me you love me.
But see that
It really hits
so,
close home to Nathan.
We're
No,
really
no,
good.
but it goes on for way too long, and he's just like, again. Like,
But was that one? Or was that another episode? I feel as though it was a different episode.
No, it's all part of the same episode.
Was it the same? Okay.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it was
yes,
like an
that is
hour.
very good.
Yeah.
Oh no! Yeah, that's when he hires actors as well. There's a different time he
Yeah,
does
yeah.
it. Yeah. Anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
very good. We're definitely going off topic here, but yes.
Yeah, anyway.
Please let me know.
Back to Baby Reindeer.
Look,
Yeah,
going back to the Alan not enjoying it and being surprised by it, I really, really, really struggle with British TV. Really struggle with it. I watched it and I got more into it the more I watched it, but man, I really had to like push myself and force myself to watch this.
The first
Especially at the beginning.
couple of episodes, I think, like it gets stronger the more you go on.
Yeah.
But British TV is certainly it's different. Like it has its own flavor, which not everyone likes.
Yeah.
But I did appreciate the fact that, like most British TV, it was only like 7 episodes and half-an-hour episodes. It wasn't very long, so
Yeah.
it's not like you can get through it in an afternoon. Like it's not too much of a task.
I did like the half-hour episodes. That was good.
Yeah, but I guess that it all being true, it raises a lot of questions on. I guess there's a couple of issues. Like apparently it's an open secret who his abuser is in like the entertainment industry. And nobody says or does anything. I'm like, it's kind of a back to a quiet on set situation, where it's just like.
But it goes to
Richard
show, like,
Osman,
it's
yeah,
like,
Richard
it just-
Osman, an English comedian. Sorry, Julian. Richard
you're
Osman,
right.
an English comedian, came out said to some paparazzi or journalist, he said, "Oh no, everyone knows who it is, but like no one wants to risk their career over it."
Yeah.
I'll find out what he actually said, but apparently it's just one of those things. People just like, yeah, just stay away from him. Like,
Yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
knows who
Like
he is,
it,
but
it's in
what-
all in like Australian film industries had it as well. What is it? I better be careful who I accuse here, because just in case that happened. But I'm pretty like there's definitely a prominent name in the Australian film industry or TV industry that it's happened to or has been
Yeah.
convicted from doing it. But like it's everywhere, and it's really unfortunate. It goes to show it's not just kids; it's adults as well.
Yeah.
Terry Crews said big buff Terry Crews has come out and said that he was abused at the start of his career. Like, nobody would have expected it, but, it goes to show that it can happen to anybody.
And I guess that one of the key abusers of his time, Jimmy Savile. I think
Yeah.
the British
Yeah.
entertainment industry is no stranger to it,
Yep.
and he was syndicated by the BBC.
Yeah.
So cancel your TV
specifically.
licenses.
Mate, don't pay for him anyway. No one
cut
does.
that. Cut that.
We can't legally pay for it. We're in Australia, so we can't.
Yeah,
We,
it's
we
not.
don't access the BBC in Australia, is what Nathan's trying to say.
That's all right. I don't like BBC. I don't
Yeah.
like English stuff
We
anyway.
we
So
don't access in quotes. Um,
Anyway, no, so like Richard Osman, you'd know him. He's been on tons of like, he's probably been on like, 8 out of 10 Cats Do Countdown and all that kind of stuff, right? He's on all those English game shows. And he said on the podcast, The Rest is Entertainment with journalist Marina Hyde, he said everyone knows who it is. He's, in the years, Richard Gadd has been very honest and open with his experiences in, like, I guess the real life versions of what's happened to him, and it's not really a secret. Obviously, for legal reasons, they're not going to just throw this dude out on the Netflix TV show and be like, he did it. Because, I guess
I mean,
it opens a can of worms.
yeah, starting court cases and everything else
Yeah,
is not conducive to making good money, especially when you're on the defense side. So obviously Netflix is smarter than that.
And they're kind of vague enough too, with this person's real identity, that it's, I guess, it's not a Martha situation where people kind of sussed out who it's most likely to be straight
Yeah.
away. But I think that that adds another element to this show. Knowing that it's pretty much all a true story, or that's what we're led to believe, also kind of adds a weight to it, where you're like, wow, this dude's actually gone through this and he's playing himself. I wonder how he was able to do it in a lot of ways. Like, was it therapeutic? Was it cathartic for him? Or was it a struggle? Reliving
Yeah.
these moments.
Yeah, because some of the moments, especially I guess the sexual assault moment, that just would have been straight up horrible to kind of go through again, even if it's just acting. Like there was certain parts of it where like obviously things are happening to him, and there's not much even again it's not happening for real. There is I feel to get the full intensity of the scene across, he would probably be experiencing the same emotions or similar emotions.
Well, yeah, you're putting yourself in a situation, fake or real. It's in something you've done before, you're bound to relive it, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder how he was able to do some of these things, get through some of these things. I mean, I guess if it's been a few years, maybe it's easier. It hasn't recently. It happened in, what was it, like 2015, 2016,
Yeah,
something like that.
around
So
there.
it's been nearly 10 years. Maybe he's had some time to process. But he was doing this as a play before the Netflix show. Anyway, it was adapted from a stage play. So maybe he's had some time to kind of refine it, get it off his chest. I guess throwing these things out into the public is brave, and I guess it helps him, in a way, kind of, I guess when you're open with it, it's less scary, because what can people do to you? Now it's not a secret.
I think it goes to show the way. Obviously, it all came out when he had essentially the outburst on stage. But he obviously, this is such a terrible thing that's happened to him and all that kind of thing. But like he got so much support, and he was worried about telling his parents, and when it comes down to it, I would say 99% of parents are gonna stand there and support you no matter what's happened or what you've done and all that kind of thing. So it's good that he was so scared, but when he finally got it off his chest, he did get that relief.
I think
And
I
it
think
helps
from
him
at
to
least in
heal.
the show, Richard slash Donnie, I think he was more afraid to come out to his parents as not straight than he
Yeah.
was to talk about the abuse. Because not all parents are going to be cool with that, especially if you have conservative, we'll say, Scottish hardline kind of parents, and it's like, well, not everyone, like, especially people his age, he's a bit older than us, I believe. It's like, well, not everyone's going to be accepting. So there is definitely that kind of, how do I talk to my parents about me not being the person they think I am?
Yeah.
That's also a separate issue, I think. If it was just kind of the abuse, then yeah, it's like, well, you would hope your parents would be supportive. But he
Well, I
also
think
went through a lot of things he had shame about, and kind of bringing up shame with a parent is just hard enough anyway, right? Like, kind of anything you get ashamed of.
I think it's when I don't know if this is just them, like if this actually happened or not, but he told his parents about what happened, and then he goes, well, essentially, son, hey, I grew up in a Catholic church when I was younger, like,
Yeah, well, yeah, the kind of dad, it doesn't explicitly come out and say that he got abused by the church,
but it's
he
insinuated.
basically, yeah, it's heavily insinuated.
So it's unfortunate, but this is a lot. this kind of thing, is more widespread than what what the general public knows, which is really unfortunate. Um, yeah. So.
The show does a lot of these. It handles these themes quite well. Like it handles them with the delicacy and obviously the, I guess, the truth of it. It's not subtle. It's confronting.
Mm,
But like at the end of the episode, it will tell you if you're struggling with these. Here's a website you can go to for help and support, which I did appreciate.
mm,
That it doesn't just I guess throw people out there.
mm,
I think he does a lot in his personal life for like abuse charities. And what is that? He is an ambassador for We Are Survivors, a UK charity dedicating to helping male survivors of sexual abuse. So he does a lot in his own, I guess, private
mm.
life to support these kinds of things, which again I guess is definitely related to his personal experience and probably a form of, I guess, well, therapy is the wrong word, but you know what I mean. It's kind of like doing what you would like in the world, like pushing forward the kind of values that you would like to see in the world.
Mm.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
guess being there as understanding, like from being a victim, being there, to support future victims in a way that he probably wasn't supported, which is, quite a positive thing. I just want to go back to the point, Julian, you made where, like, as you said, when he did go to report it, the police seem to be like, well, first of all, why don't you come sooner? And like, again, kind of shifting it onto the victim,
Mm.
and then also being like, well, we need more concrete evidence that you're being, stalked or harassed. When it's like, well, if somebody's sending you 40,000 emails, I
Yeah.
think that's very clear that they're harassing you.
Mm.
Like,
Well, like, I think that, like, yeah, absolutely, of course, but the hey, we need more evidence, forced him to basically set her up, which caused him more issues, because they wouldn't jump onto it just based off his word. So, like, there's always these legalities, and they want to
yeah,
protect everybody, but come on.
there's a balancing act of like,
Mm.
you don't want a situation where anyone who like
So
just I guess has a vendor against you
it
just goes to police like he's stalking me, and now you're no longer allowed possibly at your place of work or something.
Mm.
it
Like,
was interesting how quickly they changed their tone when he got the police officer to type in Martha's name.
yeah,
Yeah.
He's just like, "Oh, give me a minute. Like,
yeah,
I'll come back with the boss." Because it's like they weren't taking it seriously until they, put the name of the alleged offender into the computer and saw that she was a quote unquote serious person.
yeah.
Mm.
And this is, I guess, more well, it's also real world, but this is obviously traumatized. But another real world example is actually a streamer in the UK. Her name's Sweet Anita, and she had an issue with a stalker as well. And basically, it becomes an issue where they learn, especially if they've done it multiple times, they learn the tricks of the trade, for lack of a better
Mm.
word, where they know exactly where they can be and can't be, to the
Mm.
point where they are still stalking you. It's just legally they're not stalking you.
Mm.
And like he would not be outside her house, be a few, houses down, and kind of wait for her. And she reported to the police, and they're like, we can't really do anything. So it becomes a situation of you can't do anything until you are physically, I
Yeah.
guess, hurt by this person. At which point, I feel like it's too late. You've suffered something that you shouldn't have suffered,
Mm.
and in the
Yeah.
meantime, nobody's helped you.
Yeah, the show definitely has that helplessness element to it too in the
Yeah,
narrative. Like, kind of, Donnie feels helpless, I guess, to fix his own problems and to escape the situation with Martha. I think overall I enjoyed the show. It's very heavy. Um, but do we have anything else to talk about the show specifically before we move on to possibly the fallout around the show?
I think so. I heard about it on the radio, right? And from what I heard, I was like, "Oh, it's like absolutely incredible" and all that kind of thing. It didn't get me. Like, I honestly, I think the whole 7 episodes. If I never watched it, I wouldn't have. I don't think I would have lost anything. Um, I really had to force myself to watch it because we were doing this tonight. Um, so yeah, look, obviously, everybody's got their own different tastes and stuff, but yeah, look, is it a must watch? I suppose. Look, not necessarily. No. But
I think it could have been a movie. I think it
yeah,
could have been. I think they could have adapted it into a film better than a 4-hour TV show. Let's put it that way. I think this could have been a better film. Um,
yeah,
That's not to say I didn't enjoy it, but they could have cut a couple episodes off and called it a film. Just be wrapped it up a bit tighter.
Yeah.
Zimri, what do you think, Alan? Is it?
I thought it was quite well done. Like, I've always been of the mindset of like, I'm fortunate enough to, I guess, be in a position where I don't think I'd be troubled by a stalker.
Are you not stalk worthy?
more or less, like I'm just like, look, I'm no prize catch, but at the same time, the stalker chooses their victim for certain reasons.
But I
That's the
don't
most
think.
Alan quote. That's the most Alan quote we've had in ages. A stalker wouldn't bother me.
Can you make a short out of that or something?
But also, I'm like, look, we'll call it toxic masculinity if you want to call it that. But I'm like, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to follow me? Like, all right, I'll turn around. Let's start something.
Look, I don't know. I think you say you're not a prize catcher or whatever it is, but people don't stalk necessarily
Exactly.
the prize catchers.
Yeah, like they stalk for their own reasons, and I think that's kind of what the show has helped me with. Where I'm like, it's not always about what I think like stalking would be about. People again have their own reasons and their methods of stalking. Like again, that you're constantly getting an email from this person every day, possibly multiple emails a day. And they're just generally unsettling. Nothing's like, I'm going to come kill you or do something to you. It's just unkind, sometimes all kind emails. And you're just like, I don't. Like, the closest thing I've experienced to it is a guy at the gym who started texting me because he, asked for my number as just a, friendship thing. And then would just text me every day, like random stuff. And then I ended up blocking him. And then he started texting me on WhatsApp. So, like, you knew I blocked you. That's why you started sending the message.
Alan, call him out. Come on, call him out right now.
No, but this guy would do it to everyone. That was kind of his shtick. Like, he would, like, be your friend, grab your number, and then just, like, blast text everyone. To the point where some people had to yell at him. I personally.
Well, I think there's a difference between stalking and social awkwardness and social
exactly.
awareness.
Like, that's what I'm saying. That's the closest thing I've kind of experienced. Where again, it doesn't really compare in this case. But also having like your family harassed, which I think was a big thing. Where like, all right, I can, I guess, handle myself. I think I can handle myself. Whereas like, somebody's gone after my family members, that becomes far more difficult. Where I'm like, this is between you and me, allegedly. Why are you talking to my parents or my sister or something? Yeah, like all those sorts of things kind of puts it in perspective. Like, it doesn't always have to be like the critical thing of like some creepy guy who's stalking some fragile young girl. That's like the base stalking story. Like, it can be any different group of people. It can be multiple people stalking a single person. That kind of stuff.
I think playing devil's advocate here, though. Imagine someone's following you every day, all day. They don't talk to you, or they run away, or they talk to you non-stop. And I'm like, you're not immune from that.
No.
Especially in public situations.
Yeah, like if they come to your workplace and you cause a scene, you could lose your job, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so obviously you're not in that position at the moment. But what if they like followed you non-stop? Every time you went to the supermarket, they would just like talk at you. You know what I mean? Like, you can try to start something, but you're going to start something in public, you're going to get charged. Like, similarly, it's maybe not quite as black and white as, Mr. Toxic Masculinity over here, I'll sort the problem myself, let's fix it in one afternoon, mate. Yeah. Like, it's a lot, there's a lot more layers there's a lot more layers to it.
And that's what I appreciate with the show. Like, it shows that side of like you said, if I'm at the grocery store, I'm like, picking up oranges, and there's somebody else there picking up oranges, and then the third person, the stalker, comes along and be like, be careful with that, man. You don't want him touching your oranges or something. And you're just like, what? Just leave it. But that's happening to you every day. Like, again, like, I can understand being really, really, like, I guess, in a stuck situation. Like you said, you can't, if you start something inside the shopping center, like, you're now the bad guy who like violently attacked a person for making a comment about oranges. But like, again, people don't have the context of like, this person's been, touching your oranges for the last 10 years.
But in the show, obviously it all climaxes at one point where Martha goes to the comedy show or whatever it is, and Donnie's with his girlfriend, or I don't know if they were dating at that point or whatever it was, and she starts causing like major issue, and then basically he tells her to leave, right? But did she leave him alone? No, she stuck around. She just continued what she was doing. So it's not going to make a difference if they're that committed to stalking you.
Yeah. So I think also, Julian, I'm sorry, man. The climax is when you got glass in the pub, mate.
Yeah, that's probably for me. That was
sorry. Well, the first
the pre-climax.
Yeah, the pre-climax. Yeah.
Also, for what it's worth, I don't think Donnie's girlfriend, who was a trans woman, looked particularly manly. So, you know,
Well, thank you for your opinion. We really needed that.
obviously it was a sore point
But I
for.
think, but that's like another. We're talking about layers, right? Like that's another layer to the show. Like that by itself, without having a stalker and all these other issues, like that would be hard enough for somebody, right? Because it's not the
Yeah.
supposed accepted norm in life. But you can't help for the most part who you're attracted to. I've got to be careful with, the way we say that. But like it is what it is. Like that alone. Can you imagine, saying to your parents, "Hey, I've got a new girlfriend, but she used to be a man." Like it's not, most people aren't gonna be like, "Okay,
Yeah,
cool,
and
bye, let's go, let's
and
pick
that's
up where
part
we
of
would."
and that's part of the shame that Donnie has in the show as well.
Yeah.
He's at one point in the show he was confused, and he's like he doesn't understand why. He, I guess, at one point kind of softly categorizes it as a reaction to the abuse he suffered. It may he left him confused. But was he always like that, or is it a consequence? He doesn't talk about it too much. In real life, he identifies as bisexual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess he says identifies as bisexual in the show, but there's a point in the show, and they're like the flashback episode where he's questioning, and that's a part of shame for him as well.
Yeah.
And
Like
so it's like he also doesn't know how he feels.
yeah, like the whole idea of like he sets himself up with a profile with a fake name and a fake job.
Yeah,
And he only sees his name starts with T, doesn't it?
Terry.
Terry.
He sees Terry only at like some out there pubs like that are nice and dark.
Yeah, because he's ashamed of her, or to be seen
yeah.
with her.
Yeah, which is again so kind of vulnerable in a way, like to show that in as part of the show, where again the show's crux is like he's obviously had this issue with one, sexual abuse, and two, a stalker, but he's again showing his own faults, which I think adds a lot of credibility to the whole story itself, where he's like, look, I was not the greatest person in these situations. I was not the greatest person in all of this. I wasn't just like, again, a lonely victim that was doing nothing wrong. He's like, I had my own difficulties, and this is kind of what happened. Here's my story. So for me, like, it becomes a much more natural, much more believable story rather than this guy had maybe something mild happen to him and he's blown it up into this big, story to try and make a few $1,000,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, then at the same time, like, well, okay, like, sure, it's a true story, but is everything in the show a true story? Like, was he actually dating a transsexual at that point in time? Was he actually? I can't tell you. Was he actually in that comedy competition? Like, I know some of these things aren't important, but the transsexual thing that is like a major part of the story.
I think
At least in the
I think
show.
that's all. I think most of that's true. You can look up the footage of him at the comedy shows,
Yeah.
like the Fringe festivals and stuff. All of that's documented. I don't see why he'd lie about dating a trans woman.
Well, it's not necessarily about lying, but not every, like, you can watch a
yeah.
show. They have to make it
Dramatizing it,
something for the cinema. Like, it can't just be a boring, this is what happened. Like, they got to make it interesting for the.
Yeah.
Before we do move on, I had a question. In the show, it's like there's a scene where he, I guess, may or may not have a sortie with Martha. Was that like an imagination thing for him, or was that a legit thing in the show? Because I couldn't work it out.
Wait, say it again.
He
Hooked
I
up
think-
with her?
Yeah, like
I assume that to be in his imagination, and he was visualizing that as a means to get over his sexual frustration in the bedroom.
yeah.
See, I was confused about that as well, but then it seemed like when he was getting interviewed by the police, he was worried about them discovering that he hooked up with her. That was my understanding of what happened. Yeah. Maybe it's one of those things you just interpret it how you want to interpret it.
Because the only thing is like, again, this is obviously supposed to be a serious drama and stuff, but like I could not get over the whole bumhole lover as like an insult. Just also again, what kind of a coworker if you're being like, hey, I'm getting kind of harassed by this person, and they're like send a response email, kind of inviting them for a kind of a sexual, I guess, invitation. Like,
See, that's another thing, and maybe it's the toxic masculinity as well, but, at points he was trying to reach out and trying to get some kind of help, and he just wasn't getting it.
yeah,
Obviously those colleagues weren't the best friends or whatever you want to call them, but he was trying to reach out and get at least some kind of help, and it just wasn't taken seriously. Like, oh, well, what's she going to do to you? Like,
Yeah.
So there are those, the missed opportunities for him to get some kind of support. And then
Yeah.
unfortunately, it just happened at the end where everything started clicking, and
Um,
yeah.
Apparently Terry is based on a real person he did date, and she was a trans woman. And he said part of the shame was that he identified back then as bisexual, but trans was still a thing that wasn't widely talked about when he was dating her. It wasn't
Mm,
as open or, I guess, in public acceptance as it is now, especially where he was living at the time. So that was kind of like all of that is true. Obviously, Terry's not the real identity of the person. That's not the real name or anything.
mm.
But apparently that is a true part of, I guess, the show as well. I guess we'll move on if no one has any other thoughts about the show specifically.
No,
No, I think
no, not
that's it.
really.
All right, we all watched the
Piers
Piers
Morgan.
Morgan interview.
Like, to
So
begin with, right? Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't know a huge amount about Piers Morgan. I see a lot of his clips on YouTube and all that kind of stuff, and he's got very out there or conservative views for a lot of stuff.
he is a hardliner.
But yeah, he is. I've just found it a little bit funny that she said, "I came to you because I can't remember what it was. I
A
can get
fair and
a
balanced interview.
fair,
Yeah.
yeah, something like that." I'm like, if he's probably not the best one. Like, he has his opinions and he will push his opinions quite strongly.
To be fair, he did alright in this interview.
I do agree with that. Yeah.
Um, so a woman by the name of what I believe Fiona Harvey or Fiona Mue
New.
Harvey,
Yeah.
Mue Harvey, came forward and said that she believes herself to be the inspiration for the real life Martha.
Just on that quickly. She says that some other people figured it out and then contacted the Daily Mail and then they contacted her. I feel if she had, like, again, not come out with this and straight up gone a legal route, she would have been better off because, from, again,
100%.
Richard's point of view, he said, the person's identity has been hidden. Please do not approach them. Like, don't harass anyone involved. It was clear that they wanted to protect everyone's identities and that were involved, except for Richard himself, obviously, being the main character.
But they obviously didn't do a good enough job because they found it very quickly.
I mean, yeah,
I think the
but
problem with any real life Martha is that part of her story was that she'd been doing this before and to a politician.
Mm,
So if you're keeping the events in the show factual and changing to an extent how she looks and her name, you're still going to find out because she's still an alleged stalker of a very high profile individual. Apparently, she even was alleged to have sent 250 something emails to who is right now the opposition leader and possibly next prime minister of the UK. So I'm like, she's, I guess, had some very public issues with very public people. So
yeah,
anytime that kind of person is in a show and it's like, oh, we have to obscure your identity, but you've done some very public things that are going to make you easy to find. It's not like she is an obscure person.
yeah. But at the same time, if your goal was to be like, I don't want to be known, and your, I guess, course of action is to appear on Piers Morgan's program, you've lost all rights to being like, I wanted to protect my privacy,
Yeah.
which I think, again, I have never been in a situation such as this person, and I hope to never be in such a situation.
I will say to everyone, even if you don't have Netflix, you can still watch the interview. The interview itself is still good.
yeah.
It's on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like 54 minutes long. Go watch it. It's very telling. Um,
Normally, I watch my videos at like 2 times speed. I could not. There was so much going on where I had to
You
like,
watch it. Are you that busy, Alan, that you have to get your stuff in
yeah,
doubly quick? Do you?
well, I can no. I like to think of this. I can get twice the content in the same amount of time.
So you can move on to your next video.
Exactly. But this like there was so much going on. I had to like slow it down. I had to bump it down to like 1.25, maybe 1.5. But yeah, it was again. I don't think it was the smartest move that she made.
Especially if she's innocent, right? Because there's two situations. She's a sociopath, a high functioning sociopath, or she's innocent. If I was in her shoes and I was innocent, I wouldn't go on Piers Morgan without legal representation.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go on Piers Morgan without having won the court case, and I would come in with like a backpack full of £100 notes, and I just start throwing them at the audience. because it would be the easiest case in history, assumedly, right? If you go in saying they've defamed me, it's obviously based on me, and it probably is based on her. But if you're innocent, as he says repeatedly in the interview, it's very easy to prove, right? Take him to court on discovery. All you have to do is just sit there while then Richard Gadd and Netflix turn around and say there are no emails, there are no letters, there are no voicemails, there is no court, like there is no prior convictions, there is no restraining orders, and then you win. Netflix settles out of court most likely.
Yeah. Like, and I guess above the win, you have the ultimate, I guess, public kind of apology and public proof that like you're not the bad person here.
Yeah, and then you do your media tour, and
Yeah.
then you write your book. Like she's kind of, it's. I feel like the gun's gone off too early in this situation, and the starting gun's gone off too early. And I'm like, you should have kept quiet, gone to a law firm, even though she's a lawyer. Don't represent yourself.
No.
Get some good legal counsel. I'm sure if you are innocent, you'll have lawyers lining up around the block to defend you.
Yeah.
From a very easy, sweet case.
Yeah. Of defamation. Like, it's really a case of like her shooting herself in the foot, being like, again, jumping onto Piers Morgan. Because if there ever is a legal case, which I don't think there will be, let's be honest, but if there ever is, that the video with Piers Morgan is going to be brought up, and there are several times where she's like contradicted herself, lied, she claimed to have like known Richard over a period of 3 months. Her tweets that like they bring up are over a period of like 19 months or something. So
I don't think it's one of those things. Obviously, we have to be careful. We're not accusing anyone of doing anything. But yeah, it's one of the things where it did confuse me. I'm like, she's saying she's going to court. I'm like, if she had any basis, it'd probably already be over.
Yeah.
Right? Because her lawyer would have been like, hey, look, have you actually got the emails? Because we're going to take you to court. Netflix would have been like, nah, mate. And then it would have been like, cool, so we're settling. Sweet.
Cool, you're taking the show down and we're settling. But the show, remains to be up. And as far as I can tell, there's been no win in her front. The ultimate, I think, again, it's
time will tell.
Time will tell. But realistically speaking, the only reason you would do this kind of an interview is because legally you've got no leg to stand on, and you just, I guess, want an opportunity to maybe salvage your reputation, maybe just, I guess, throw yourself into the public sphere.
Do we think that she got paid for the Piers Morgan?
She got paid like $350.
Ah, so bugger all.
Yeah, but apparently she also turned around and said, "I want more money," and Piers Morgan probably just laughed her at the door.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like, look, again, I don't think
she's a terrible lawyer if she wanted to negotiate after the after the deal was done.
Something tells me she has been a practicing lawyer very much in her tenure. The fact that she claimed to have a photographic memory and then couldn't recite her grades that she got.
Yeah.
I got the vibe that Piers did see right through her and was like, nah, she's probably guilty. Because like he brought up some things again and again and again. Like, how easy the court case would be. Like, why are you sitting here?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's telling. I think more will come out. And, if we get more drama based on this saga, maybe we'll talk about it on the Tuesday review.
But think about it like this, right?
Episodes.
Can you imagine if this goes to court and then they do like a Johnny Depp Amber Heard case, like have it publicized and on TV? Man, this would be incredible. Love to watch that.
Would UK courts allow that? I feel that's a distinctly American thing.
Yeah, probably not. Especially with serious allegations like stalking and kind of there'd be other sensitive matters.
Amber Heard shit on the bed. That's pretty serious.
But that's also funny.
Again,
No,
Americans love their entertainment. And I think both parties would have to agree, because that was a situation where both parties agreed to have the court case televised, wasn't it? I suspect that both of them thought it would go their way, and it did go one person's way. But, I guess a separate discussion. Maybe one day in the future we'll discuss that.
We could watch the whole court case of Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, and then we'll come back and review it.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Need more drama.
Just, again, like we've already said it multiple times, like don't don't go into a TV show again. If you're going to go onto a TV show, go on with your lawyer. At least your lawyer can kind of vet what you're about to say, vet the questions, or just
Yeah.
do like a pre-recorded interview where you kind of go over some things. Never, like, again, I haven't watched too much Piers Morgan in my time, but he's not somebody who stands at the highest point of like respected journalists, from what I know.
No. Yeah, no, no,
Considering
no.
that he started working for a tabloid, and that's kind of, I guess, been his like thing, probably more sensationalist stuff rather than
It's more shock value, his
yeah,
stuff, I
shock value.
reckon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which again, I think he picked the ultimate guest if he wanted,
Yeah.
the shock
No,
value.
he's shooting for the views with this
Yeah,
one.
and I think he has, if like his company paid only $350 for that interview, man, did he get his money's worth.
Oh, he's gonna make so
Yeah.
much money off that interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of I forgot the lady's name who actually is Martha's supposed to represent.
Fiona Hart.
Fiona.
Fiona, yeah, like you can't say, yeah, I never did these things, so this person isn't me, and then also be like, oh yeah, people identified me, and then it's based
Yeah.
on me.
Well,
And there was a lot of, even if I did them, I didn't do these other things.
yeah, like, I might have sent, even if I did send the 41,000 emails, I definitely didn't do anything to him at the canal. Ooh, okay,
Yeah.
like, what's your point? Like,
You conceded some facts. You can concede these ones. At the start, it was real goof because Piers Morgan said, you have like a defamation case, and she misunderstood that, and she's like, it's not defamation if it's true. I'm like, was that like a Freudian slip? Like, yeah, but
He is a bumhole lover.
then the whole like, yeah, 5 phones and then 4 of them are broken and this and that.
And like keep people in separate numbers for separate things, which if you're a business owner or do things business, I understand. But don't say you have 5 phones if 4 of them are broken.
Yeah, like
yeah.
the only reason you have multiple phones of that level, again, if you have like one for your work, one for yourself, personal, that's fine. 3, it's getting tricky. Any more than that, you're either a drug dealer or you're doing something else nefarious. Like, let's be honest. You're either running some kind of phone scam or something of that nature. But just, yeah. I feel like she if again, this is the assumption that the show was true and the allegation is true. She's probably got a history of making a lot of bad decisions.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I guess makes this show, it pulls you in, is the fact that it's kind of that behind the curtain. You're watching a train wreck. It's really trashy, kind of, and that it like it also external to that includes the interview. Like we're watching something we shouldn't be watching. That's kind of how it feels like, especially as it goes beyond the actual Netflix show itself. It's like we're watching the train wreck that is people's lives, I suppose, and that has its own appeal in a way. But I did enjoy the show. I think people should watch it. Obviously, it's a very sensitive show. It has some strong themes and some very explicit scenes. But I did enjoy it. I think people should be talking about these subjects specifically. It's important that we're open with these sorts of subjects. Because keeping them kind of, I guess, buried and not being talked about doesn't help anyone. Yeah, what did you boys think, just overall?
It was okay. For me, it was okay. It's an interesting story. Struggled to watch the show.
See, Julian's a real toxic masculinity over here. He's like, look at this guy getting fucking stalked by a poor tiny woman, I could take it. But yeah, for me, again, I think it was quite revealing where like my original mindset of being stalked is like, who's going to stalk me? I'll take him on. Whereas now it's like, no, this actually gets far more complicated. It's not just a person following you around. It's a person interfering with your life, and that can happen to anyone. And I guess in some cases, there would be people that are probably like, in this situation who aren't recognizing it for what it is. Like they're probably just putting up with it because they're like, well, this isn't like actual harassment or stalking. This is just a person being weird. And I'm like, in those cases, some of those people probably should be like taking this opportunity to be like, no, this person's doing something real wrong with me, and I'm going to get some help.
Definitely.
Yep.
I reckon that about covers anyone. If anyone else has anything to say, other than that, I think we've covered it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, Julian, on another bonus episode of the Tuesday
Thank you.
Review, a YouTube exclusive.
Let's
Yep.
just, sorry, can I just cut you off there? Apologies. This time, let's post it to socials. Come on, let's get more than 50 views. That's what I
Yeah.
want. That's what I'm craving.
I told Alum to let me know when it was up, and he didn't, so I didn't know.
Oh, Alum, come on.
I told you you'd be
I
up within the hour
I
of
have
we
to try and beat the
talked.
Iron Claws. I think it was like
All right,
57 or 58 views.
all right. Alum can post it to the socials. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Please like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page, Instagram page, and the Threads page, the Newsmast page. We love Newsmast. We're big on Newsmast. Please follow us on Newsmast. Also, Blue Sky and Twitter, and on YouTube, of course. Ring that bell, like and
Yeah.
subscribe.
Ring that bell.
We'll be back next week. Thanks for listening, everyone. Adios, cousins.